Okay, we're recording.
Okay, we're good to go.
Good morning and happy new year to everybody. Today is the Thursday, January 4th, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Before you have the agenda for today's meeting. Could I get a motion to approve today's agenda? Steve, Amy, it's unanimous. Thank you. And then you had the minutes from our December 19th meeting. Are there any comments or questions? Could I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes? Amy.
I will approve.
Steve.
Second.
It's unanimous. Okay. Public comments. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the Board of Selectmen on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Comments submitted electronically would be sent to the following address, bosdistribution@newcanaanct.gov. Do we have anyone wishing to make comment?
No one wants to.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, the next item is Police Department purchase order increase. Do I have someone?
Is he here? No? All right, we'll have to move on.
Okay, we will
Agenda, but
come back to that. Next item is information technology contract renewals. Chris,
Good morning.
good morning.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year.
First one that we're up for is, it's Leaf. It's a 3-year contract for all the support, software support and licensing for all the WAN devices, the phone systems, the voicemail systems, and all the corresponding hardware. And that's throughout all the buildings, Board of Ed, Town Hall, all of that. It's 3 years. This will be our second year into it. We worked with finance with it last year to get in. We saved about $38,000 by doing a 3-year lease. And we owe them the $54,000.
38,000 over the life, over 3 years,
Yes.
or, yeah,
$10,000 each year.
all budgeted and everything, that's just a
Yes,
budget expense.
absolutely. Yep. The second one is one of our backup archive solutions, and that is for PD, fire, EMS, and the secondary of the town hall. We have redundancies on these. And that is also budgeted for, so that is up for renewal, and that is the same for the hardware, software licensing subscription for it as well.
Is that an annual contract, unlike the other one that's a 3-year contract?
Correct. Yeah, we normally do the annuals, but the 3-year, we have to have that clause put in the contracts. That states we're budgeted 1 year at a time. We only are approved for that number a year, so we can save sometimes, and other times when we go direct, especially with CDWG, there's a state contract for it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so could I get a motion to approve a request from the Information Technology Department to renew the following contracts? The Leaf Cisco System SmartNet 3-year contract for $54,621.15, and the CDWG Rubric software subscription and license for $25,210.50.
So moved.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's unanimous. Okay, and the chief is here.
Am I up?
You're up.
we were moving so quickly.
We don't mess around here, John.
No, that's great. Sorry, they were taking down the cell antennas on the building today. Little traffic jam getting out.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just for a purchase order increase for uniforms and equipment. It's a standard thing we do throughout the year. And it's just a 9,000 increase for New England uniform and 10,000 for Gauls. Uniform.
Is this related to the new
Some of it
officers?
is, yeah, a little bit of it is.
Okay,
So we ordering more uniforms than we had expected. Is that why they're doubling from 9?
No, it's just an increase throughout the year as officers order through their clothing allowance. We add to this. It's an open purchase order.
okay, so it's not an increase to, so this isn't an increase to the budgeted amount, it's,
No,
you're
it's
just,
adding to it.
you just need to, you're at a time when you need to purchase more,
Yeah.
and so you have to come to us.
Yeah.
and-
Previously approved purchase order,
Right.
correct?
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Just timing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve a request from the New Canaan Police Department to increase 2 previously approved purchase orders as follows? New England uniform for a $9,000 increase and Gauls for a $10,000 increase.
So moved.
Steve,
Second.
Amy, It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, while we have you, a couple residents asked me about parking on Locust Avenue and just making sure that are the officers parking in Locust Avenue now, or how does that work with
We're parking
wherever you
all
can?
over, but we're.
I know it's a learning curve over there, but you know.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to use our, the parking lot at 39 Locust,
Yeah.
and then some on-street parking, but we're staying away from the businesses.
Okay.
That was a directive that I put out to the officers,
Great.
to not park the businesses. So it should be on street, on the lower part of Locust, on the Cherry, or up to Locust Avenue block.
Right.
Are there more than the 5 slots that are being taken on Locust Avenue on the street?
There may be at periods of time during the day when there's officers stopping in, changing, and then going back out to a side job. So there may be at times when there's some at shift change a little bit.
Okay.
But
So maybe we
try
could
to-
talk about, because I got the same email and I think I shared that with you as well. Maybe we can talk about the shift change versus, because I was under the impression that it was just the cars that were necessary for those officers who were on duty and had to have quick access to their cars. So I thought that was the 5 spaces. Beyond those 5 spaces and for shift change or just officers stopping in, we probably should talk about where they park and maybe not on Locust and
Okay.
finding a different location. Because
Sure.
now that both of us have gotten, and I don't know if you've gotten any comments, but we've both gotten comments from residents. So I think we probably need to be more, just sensitive to the fact that that is a tight area and there
Yeah.
are homes and condos.
Yeah,
that
now
are-
that things have settled, we kind of get a better idea of
Yeah.
what the parking situation is. But
Okay.
that's it.
I mean, of all
Okay.
the challenges we're gonna have over there,
Yeah.
that's kind of the number one.
Yeah.
We understood that going in.
Of course.
Yeah.
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 We can do that.
Yeah, we'll be on time.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
All right.
All
thank you.
right. Okay. Moving on to item 6, emergency management and homeland security blanket resolution with Russ Kimes. Good morning, Russ.
Everyone. Microphones can actually touch it, which is very exciting. So this is requesting that the Board of Selectmen approve a request. It's actually the same thing we did with the previous first selectman. It is a blanket resolution which authorizes Deanna to sign documents from the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It is a requirement because the state of Connecticut is the state agent whereby federal funds from Homeland Security come through. And so grants, applications, as well as our what we call custodianship of regional assets. The state has moved to a model where we have regional emergency planning teams, which I am a member of for Region 1. We have a number of assets that are we are custodians of in Canaan, which can be deployed anywhere in the region or used within our own town. So we're responsible for them as well as their accountability. So we have to attest to that, and Deanna has to sign off on that. And so by making this resolution so that she can sign those, in addition to the fact that it will give her the authority to sign them, we have 4 separate grants, which now finally are manifesting for dollars in the door, which are emergency management performance grants for FYs 20, 21, 22, as well as a $5,000 grant for the fact that I just completely rewriting our local emergency operations plan and submitted to the state as required by December 31st. So we get a $5,000 grant for that as well.
The question I have is just in the language of the resolution. It's the above when you describe it, you're describing why it's to get grants and all this stuff. The actual resolution really does seem blanket, like for anything. I just think we should put within the resolution the language you have above. So it's a resolution for the purpose of having access to state grants and awards from FEMA, that language. I think that should be in the resolution, because if I read it now, it's it's like for any purpose. It doesn't define what the purpose is. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just think the language is not clear of what the resolution is for. You describe it above, but actually in the resolution.
This language is provided by the state of Connecticut and their attorneys, and it has also been vetted by our own counsel with Doug Lamonte and crew. This is standard across the state. If any changes that we would want to make would need to go through legal counsel with the state of Connecticut, and then them probably having to review it on a federal level to make sure it meets the federal muster. I'm happy to go back to the state and say, we want to change the language, but this has been, I don't want to say it's standard, but it is standard language that is seen across all the municipalities. in the county.
But if you were to read it, it basically, I mean, I get what the gist of it is, okay, but you generally, the resolution, you lay out what the resolution is for and what it covers. This is just basically says that enter and delivered to state of Connecticut Department of any and all document which seems to be necessary or appropriate, but not for what purpose. Do you see where I'm struggling on that? It just is like so general. And above, you describe what it's for. So I'm not sure why in the resolution, it cannot be specific. The reason we're doing it is so that, you know, Deanna can sign off and give us access to potential grants and FEMA aid and stuff like that.
I mean, I can bring it back to the state. I don't know how
The
long that
state?
process, the state of Connecticut's
Yeah,
attorney.
That's what he said. It's, this is
No,
state
I heard what he
language.
said, but the state, I mean, so we are resolving this blanket resolution, provide all documents where it's deemed necessary or appropriate, but it doesn't say why.
We can adjust.
Am I missing
Well,
something there?
It's, I mean, it's, you're right in terms of it doesn't say why, but I remember that we did this when, under the last administration, and similar questions came up, like what exactly, you know, does it entail? The only thing I will say is, I think when we discussed it the last time, it was just, you know, the first selectman is unlikely to sign anything that's of that importance without running it through the Board of Selectmen. So, you know, I'm comfortable with it. It starts off saying resolve that the Board of Selectmen may enter into and deliver the state of Connecticut. And it says further resolved down below that the first selectman is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. But to me, there would be discussion at the Board of Selectmen level before that would happen. So I'm comfortable with it. You know.
And again, I mean, it's your resolution, right? So we can do it. It's just whether they'll accept it at the end of the day as being sufficient for the purposes of what FEMA, DHS, and everyone else is given. So this is what their language that their lawyers have provided for municipalities. And we've done it in the past, and others as well have.
I mean, you definitely have a good point, Ian, but it's.
But I mean,
Through
okay,
two
so how
attorneys.
hard is it to ask that question?
I mean.
It
not
just,
hard at all.
I've never seen a resolution that is just like, so the word blanket is appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it's all for good purposes, but typically in the resolutions, we say why we're doing it.
I can certainly ask.
Can we ask without spending legal dollars by our attorneys? I guess that's the better question.
At the end of the day, I have to engage our counsel because I'm not an attorney to make sure that they're okay with the adjustment that the state would make. Or recommend, I should say.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about that, spending money on that. I mean, you
It's
take
so, it's like, who the heck drafted this? It's terrible.
attorneys.
Well, not good ones. It just
So
seems.
do you want to spend legal dollars to have this language brought back to the state? I guess that's the question, Amy.
You know, look, I would like to just have the inquiry without. I mean,
Well, he said he can't do it without an attorney.
I can ask.
Can't
but I
you
still have
ask?
to have it Reviewed by someone who can provide a professional opinion.
Yeah.
Because I can't provide that myself. Or at least I wouldn't be comfortable providing it myself.
it just seems, it seems sloppy and it's not something precise.
I mean, we have operated under, how many years have we operated under this?
I can't speak for before my time, but at least the entirety of my time, the last 3 years in the role, that every time, you know, we get a fair number of documents across the desk, not a ton from the state, but ENPG is one that's on an annual basis. Then we do an annual attestation with the state through the fiduciary, which is Stanford, actually. Stanford is a fiduciary for the regionally held assets, which includes things like we have a CERT trailer, the people shelter trailer, the animal shelter trailer. The town, actually 2 out of our 4 message signs, the big orange signs, are regional. Those are owned by the state under this program. So every year we have to sign off that we own them, we have custody of them, and we're maintaining them.
And that's kind of the example of why it's kind of blanket, because it's all over the place with all different kinds of buckets of different items, right? So.
Oh, no, I get it, but it basically, the sentence above says exactly why, and it's just nuts to me. That's not in the resolution. I mean. You're telling me this is used all across the state by everyone. Nobody else has said, hey, this is kind of like,
I can't speak to every single municipality, but this is language that was provided and cleared by our council. We did vet this because it's a large packet that accompanies this with Doug and Bertrand Moses. And they said this is, everywhere they've seen it, it's the exact same thing. The FEMA language is the same as any federal language, where it requires, you know, all sorts of things, Americans for Steel and things, when you're using those funds in a grant. In this case, we're not. This is emergency management performance, which is merely a cost offset for emergency management salary or equipment, one of the two,
So it's just getting money back.
getting money.
It's
Yeah,
getting
no,
money
I,
back.
The grants right now
understand.
are 10,
I get it.
10, 10.
It is uncomfortable, though, you know.
I understand the point, but I'm okay with, we've operated under the last 3 years, like, you know, and again, I don't think Deanna's not gonna sign anything major without having it run through us anyway, so. I'm very, so I'll make a motion to move it as is.
Okay, so could I get a motion to approve a request from the Emergency Management Director to approve a proposed blanket resolution as follows? Resolved that the Board of Selectmen may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate, and further resolve that Deanna Carlson, as first selectman of the town of New Canaan, Connecticut, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. So, Steve, do I have a second? I'll second it.
Second.
All those in favor? Are those opposed?
Can I abstain? Am I allowed to abstain? I'm going to abstain.
Okay, all right.
Not that I don't trust anybody, I just don't like doing it.
I get it. I get it. I get it. Okay.
I will provide the feedback to the state though, however.
Okay.
I will
Thank
absolutely
you.
provide.
I mean, I
feedback.
trust your rest. It just seems goofy. You know?
That's why you're here. I just want to thank you for all that you did on Christmas Eve, getting even set up. That really went flawlessly, so.
Oh, thanks. It was a wonderful event and a huge turnout.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
great weather.
yeah, and
Huge.
an amazing group of people who come out to help set that up, including yourself and others. So it was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to item 7, pave to 2023. Tiger,
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So this next item is an increase to an existing contract with Fuss and O'Neill. Fuss and O'Neill is a traffic engineer. They've been working with us on the redesign of the Route 123 Brushy Ridge Locust Avenue intersection. Mainly the traffic signal portion of it, and then dealing with the state area of traffic engineer, the traffic signal division, and District 3's maintenance divisions as well. So basically, the plan's been going through its iterations with the DOT for several years now, as far as we proposed that to them, an idea of extending the sidewalk down Brushy Ridge to come across 123 to attach to the sidewalk that's at Locust Avenue. Associated with that would be some signal modifications, specifically to the pedestrian heads, as far as the locations and then the timing. The DOT says that we have to do all of the design ourselves, but come to them for approval since it's their intersection, right? It's their traffic signal, it's their right of way, things of that nature. So Bustin O'Neill has been working with our civil engineer, Cabezas DeAngelis, for a while now. And each meeting is time, right? It's time for them, you know, and it's beyond their scope at this point in time. So we had originally had original scope of $9,750. That included $1,750 for meetings and responses to the DOT comments. It had to go through an entire redesign from what the original approved plan was. So with that, some additional meetings, we increased their contract by $10,000. The board did that several months ago, probably 6 months ago, if not more, maybe a year ago. And now we're at the point where I'm about to exceed that approval. So I'd like to extend the contract by another $10,000. At present, we've spent on their services $19,918.75. I've got approved 21,100, but at the next meeting that I have with them, I'll likely reach over that. At that point in time, I wouldn't be able to go forward. So it's in essence, in order to finalize the plan, we're at what I consider to be the final stage of design and the final stage of their approval, whereby we've got a couple of tweaks left to do, and then it should go to them for a final sign off, and then we can go back out to bid, have the event constructed this coming spring, fall, spring, summer. It's just unfortunate that the amount of time that's been required for these plan modifications. I don't have control over that.
So Tiger, the initial plans, you had specs and then you designed to the specs and then they changed the specs?
We had a design, and
It was your design?
it was our design that they had originally agreed to.
Okay.
The state,
The state.
Okay.
And then the state said, then when we went to them.
Joked
or
you.
Excuse me?
They joked you. Yes or no, we didn't really.
Well, in essence, what winds up happening is that you send in your submittal, they come back with 7, 9 comments. You address the 7 and 9 comments, you send your submittal back, it comes back with 4 or 5 comments. You send your submittal back in with the 4 or 5 comments adjusted. Maybe you come back with none, maybe you come back with 2. And it's that constant interplay back and forth between how you're tweaking it forward. And now we're at the point where, they don't like the extension of a retaining wall. They don't like an area where a catch basin is, things of that nature, right? So each time it keeps going through, and there's various departments. It's not just one department. So we have district design, okay? We have district maintenance. That's our district, District 3, that's out of New Haven. And then you have Newington, you have their overall traffic signal division there and their overall maintenance division there. So there's various entities that are at play. Bustin O'Neill is excellent at this work. It's just a question of time is money for them, right? I can't expect them to then, utilize, they've done everything in their scope that they're supposed to do, and then the meetings are extra. All right, so they estimated how many meetings they would have. We're at the point where it's requiring more time. And effort. These are things that happen, unfortunately. If it
So,
was just our time, it would be nothing.
so if I'm looking at this, and then, do you expect another 10,000 with task number 3? Or is that within it? So
Yeah,
this is,
I anticipate that we'll be done with this. Like I said, I'm at 21,100. Excuse me, approved, and I'm at 19,009 as far as how much I've spent. So this additional 10, I'm coming back because we're beyond where I could go to Deanna for a signature, so I'm at the point where, I could say it's 5, but then if it's 6, then I got to come back again. So I'm saying it's 10. I don't believe I'm going to get to the 10 mark. We're at the point now where we're down to the final minor comments, where I think that this next submittal, we'll have one more meeting with them. They'll approve that submittal and then we'll be done. So I might not even broach the 21-1, but I go to 21-101 and I have to come back. So that's where I'm at.
but if I look on this, additional project cost is a task number 3 meeting. And above, where you get to the 31,000 it's number 1, number 2, is there another 3? Well, if I just look at additional
It just
projects.
continues to add. So 3 started off at 1,750, right? So, with that, I'm at $7,258 for meetings and another $5,300 for a task 4, which was an addition, which was a new traffic signal plan that they requested or required.
But I'm just trying, we're not looking at 41,000. We're
No.
looking at 31. I'm just trying to.
I think it's the way it's written,
Yeah.
Tiger, because you have number 1, number 2 up above, and then you have task number 3.
Yeah, it's
So
not an
it's-
additional
No,
10.
right.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's my
Task number
question.
3
Yeah.
relates to what the
Yeah.
task was, which was meetings,
Gotcha.
not
Yeah.
the increase.
Okay,
The,
so
the
max is
modification of the
31,000
Yeah,
all
it's
in.
modification of the contract of 1, modification of the contract of 2. We're at modification of the contract 2, done. So 31-1, I don't think we'll even broach that.
Got it.
That's my goal. And my goal is to be around 23,000 overall for that.
And do they pay for the traffic light? Or it's their light, right? They
It's
pay-
their light.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pay for the maintenance and the upkeep,
Mhm.
any additional changes that we want to do that are outside of their time frame. Meaning that if it's not within their time frame of say redoing the signal, we would have to pay for it. So this change in the pedestrian head and adding the sidewalk to then connect River Street with
Mhm.
Locust,
That's on us.
That's on us. You
Okay.
know, unfortunately, their timeframes for signal modifications are very long and pedestrian modifications are normally not included.
I mean, this has to be done right, because that is a busy
Mhm.
intersection.
Right.
There's
And
the
dangerous.
amount, yeah, dangerous. You've got Summer Street coming, you got Locust, you got River Street, you got all that stuff going on there. I mean, that's tough over there.
Right.
And there's so much going on that,
At one point in time, they told us that we needed to reconstruct the bridge.
oh,
So that's what we said, wait,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
I'm not reconstructing your bridge because we were attaching guide rail to the edge of the bridge. And once we attached guide rail to the edge of the bridge, they said that we needed that their bridge height was now too low and that we needed to redesign the entire bridge. I said, no, we'll redesign and come back to something where your bridge is your bridge. It's not our bridge. You know,
so for the neighbors over there and the residents, the plan is, how much sidewalk are we gonna add over there in terms of?
So River Street right now, it starts at Charles Place and runs down through. There's been the ask to continue it to get to Strawberry Hill, Garibaldi.
Yeah.
That we did basically a two-phase. We did a phase that ended at the state property, continued to Charles Place, and we're still continuing to look at whether or not we should get to Garibaldi. So that's approximately about another $100,000 worth of work. But we have other areas of concern that I wanted to address first. This is actually, there's a short piece on Brushy Ridge that needs to extend, Brushy Ridge to extend to the intersection.
Yeah.
And then there's a small piece. We originally had the intersection, the crossing being on the southern side of the intersection. So there was basically no sidewalk extension needed. They now want us on the northern side of the intersection. So there'll be a small piece along Locust. And then where the traffic signal, if you come down Locust to the traffic signal where the stop bar is, that's where the sidewalk ends on the southern side. There'll be a crosswalk there to a sidewalk extension to lead to what we would consider to be the northwest section corner of that intersection. And then from there, there'll be a crossing across the street. And then that will tie into, that's now on the River Street side, the Brushy Ridge side. That'll tie in right there.
That's great. It's a great addition over there.
Yeah, it's been several years in the making. To be quite honest. So
You're right, though. That
we're
is a
very,
quirky
very-
intersection.
Well,
And there's
it's-
always people there waiting to cross. I
Right.
drive that way all the time.
There's a-
Always
there's
trying
a-
to cross.
Yeah, it's a high density across the street, right there on River Street. It's very high density and there's a lot of people that want to come into town. We did have a pedestrian strike there a number of years ago, so we're trying to make it safer. That's the goal. It's just that if we don't own the intersection, so since we don't own the intersection, we have to go through the modifications that the state requires.
Once we get through all this, what's the timeline in terms of?
It's only a couple of months to build it. I really wanted to get it done this past September, October, and we just weren't able to do that. I told the previous board that was the goal, to have it done by November 1. We didn't get there. So now the goal is to tighten this up and then start in April. So it's really a month or so of work to get all the work done.
That's great.
So Tiger, just so I have a sense of what is the projected cost of the project once you get all the approvals? I just want to, because I want to put together how much are we spending on consulting as a percentage of this project?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that it looks like the consulting fees are quite high for this, but and they are. It's more just the fact of where we are with the state.
Yeah, I think it's a conversation to have, and that's why I want to understand. What's the overall project cost? What are you projecting?
1,000 to
So-
200,000.
Oh my gosh.
You can't equate the two together at this.
Oh,
point.
you can and be
You
upset
can, but
about it.
It's a very difficult, that's a difficult discussion. Most of the time, it doesn't come to this level, but it's at this intersection, it has at this point in time. So, what the requirements are, the requirements, they tell me what they require. I say, okay. This is what you
So
want.
why, I guess my only question is, why are they being so difficult on this intersection with design? Or is it Fuss and O'Neill didn't understand?
Fuss O'Neill's an excellent contractor. and
So, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's state regulations for doing things. DOT must have regulations. So why is this coming back to us
What we
repeatedly?
proposed, they, in essence, they did, certain entities didn't like. They don't like the fact that we have a leak off that leaks onto their bridge seat, but it already leaks onto their bridge seat. But now that it's shown on the plan is leaking onto their bridge seat, they want us to change that and change the drainage for it. these are things that, you know, that are also being brought to their attention as far as their, you know, maintenance of their structures. So I can't, Boston O'Neill and our designer followed their highway manual. But then it comes down to minor tweaks here and there. You know, and little things matter as far as they're concerned. The exact location of the curb ramp, the exact location of the ped head. Again, whether or not we had guide rail that attached, originally they wanted us to put in guide rail, you know, then we said, okay, the guide rail is going to attach to the bridge. Then it had to go to DOT bridge. DOT bridge said, well, wait a minute, that bridge, that parapet wall is too low. You're gonna have to raise that parapet wall, but in order to raise that parapet wall, you gotta change the abutments all the time. Wait a minute, I'll just take the guide rail off. So it's a very tricky intersection since there's several legs that apply, because you have Summer Street that comes in, Locust comes in, 123 and Brushy Ridge. And it's a very, very tight location. It's got nothing to do with Boston O'Neill's abilities. Boston O'Neill was excellent. And it's one of the reasons why we hired Boston O'Neill, was because of their excellence and because of the way that they're able to deal with the DOT.
Do you think we have, because I've been reading about some of these grants that are available for safety, you know, intersection. Do we have like how many pedestrian strikes or accidents?
Most of our intersections don't trip that.
I think it was like 2. I think I heard if it was 2 over a 3-year period that you could qualify, and we haven't had that.
Thankfully, we don't.
Okay.
The majority of our intersections do not qualify for. any of
Yeah,
those
that's what I
safety
figured. I
modifications.
figured that.
That's the
Okay.
problem, is that
Okay.
they go down to exactly that. They go down to accident history.
Mhm.
And then at accident history, we typically lose all
Okay.
the time. What we consider to be an unsafe intersection does not trip their
Okay.
requirements.
And so the work at this intersection is prompted by us, not the state, right?
Prompted by
We're
us,
saying
that's
it's not safe, so,
But we'd like to get our pedestrians across the
Sure.
street. You know, to
Yeah.
be quite honest with you, right now, the pedestrian head, the signal head where you have to press it is
Mhm.
behind a guide rail. Explain to me how someone with a disability is able to do that. They
Mhm.
can't, but they're not gonna come and modify that. We have to modify that.
Right.
But at present, if you go there and drive right now on Brushy Ridge, you know, if you come down and you look, behind the guide rail is the pedestrian, you know, signal head, and you have to press it. I don't know how you do that. You know, doesn't matter if you're able-bodied or not, you know, at that point in time, but that's the way that they designed it. So we have to redesign it, because now we want to take our pedestrians, our citizens, and get them across the street. So I have to take a design that doesn't work and make it work, and I have to pay for it. That's literally where we're at.
to make it safer for everybody.
Make
So,
it safer for
so
our
we're gonna have
residents.
to,
Right. You have to look at it from their standpoint. They've got thousands of, you
Sure.
know, intersections in the state. So anything that a town wants to do becomes a town's responsibility.
yeah. And when you think, like, if they're saying it's draining in a way that's detrimental to their bridge, it makes sense
It's fine.
globally to fix it, right? You know,
Exactly, except
Yeah.
that's already existing in that manner.
right.
So if it's existing in that manner, then you take care of it. Don't make me take care of it. Would you follow? You know,
Mhm.
or if I put it back the exact same way it was, then you tell me that, no, that's not satisfactory. I said, wait a minute, that's the way you had it. You know, those are the frustrations
Yeah,
that
sure.
that we're facing at present. But I have to do what they want, because if I don't do what they want, I don't get approval. And if I don't get approval, I can't do it. Then nobody wins at that point, unfortunately.
All right.
So you, right now, you're asking for a max of 31,000. You
Well,
don't,
I'm asking for a max of 10. I'm at
10,
19 and change. I'm asking
All
to
in, I'm
increase the thing to 31.1. I don't believe I'm gonna get to there.
Okay.
You know, that's an entire year's worth of effort. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm done with this next submittal.
All right. Any more questions?
No.
All right. Could I get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works to enter into a contract with Boston O'Neill in the amount of $10,000 to perform consulting services for the design of the paved 2023 Route 123 Brushy Ridge Locust Avenue intersection project?
So moved.
Steve, second. Amy, all in favor. It's unanimous. Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Mayor.
thanks, Turner.
Moving on to the sweeper purchase.
So this next one hopefully is a little easier. So this is a replacement of an existing sweeper. We went out and took a look at, we have a 3-wheel and a 4-wheel. We're looking at replacing the 3-wheel sweeper that we have right now, but the pricing for the 3-wheel, as you can see, is exorbitant. And also the trade-in value that they were going to give us for our unit was substandard, or less than what we felt it should be. So we went and looked at a 4-wheel sweeper, which is much more palatable, and it comes in close to where what we had budgeted. We had $200,000 budgeted for the sweeper itself. So this approval at 212,462 is contingent upon going to the Board of Finance for the additional monies. We've had savings in other purchases. Already spoken to the Board of Finance Chair previously before the holiday about this, and they're in favor of us going forward and then coming forward for a request for additional funds of 12,462 to complete the purchase. But overall, what we need from you first is to say, okay, we'd like to buy it, then I'll go to the Board of Finance and say, okay, I need the additional monies to buy it. And then they'll buy it. But you obviously approve it contingent upon that happening. If that doesn't happen, then we don't go forward.
Can you explain the difference on the 3 to 4? Is the 3 more nimble, can do more things? Because it's like, it's you're doing the Home Depot Cummins deliver, you got the 3-wheel thing that moves all around. There you go. Okay.
That's a 4-wheel load drill. I was sitting here last night thinking.
Okay.
what is that
Exactly.
3-wheel load drill?
Oh, it's 2 different sizes. Okay. So we're getting the 4.
We're getting the 4-wheel, right? It's a little,
Is it more cumbersome to work with or is it work?
I wouldn't say that it's more cumbersome. We've asked our men and our men are comfortable using the 4-wheel. The 3-wheel is, you can back it into certain locations in certain, areas, but overall the 4 should satisfy our needs. Mose and I spoke about it yesterday, and the fact that we just feel that the cost for the 3-wheel is just,
Yeah.
The problem that we feel is that, Elgin is the only game in town and they're not necessarily feeling the heat to then bring their pricing down to what should be, what we feel is more commensurate. So at that point in time, we're not willing to spend that amount of money. So the additional, the less maneuverability on the 4-wheel, that's fine, but the 4-wheel actually can travel faster and farther. So not just in town, but then when it gets out of town, when we have to go, because we have to sweep every road in town at
I was
least
gonna
once a
ask you
year.
how many, yeah.
Yeah, at least once a year. That's that's a DEP mandate for our MS4 permit. So we have to sweep every single one. We wind up doing it more than once. But again, a 4-wheel sweeper actually is faster and can get to those locations quicker. So there's a time savings on that side, which offsets some of the maneuverability for work in town.
So how many sweepers do we have? So do we have 1 3-wheeler and then?
We have
this-
1 3-wheeler and 1 4-wheeler right now. We'll be going to 2 4-wheelers.
Okay.
And then we'll wait and see what happens with Elgin on the 3-wheel. And then eventually, if at that point in time that we have to come back to replace the other 4-wheel, if the pricing is better, then we'll come back down to the 3-wheel. If not, we'll stay at a 4-wheel.
What's the useful life on a sweeper? Like the one that you were trading in?
They beat themselves up pretty badly. They're not,
Are they 7-year vehicles?
It's a 7 to 10,
Mhm.
yeah, at best. And what you want to do is you want to get rid of them before you start having problems. So we're at a good point to
Yeah.
get rid of it. That's why there's a high trade-in value. There's actually an entity waiting to purchase our vehicle. So they want our vehicle and they're willing to pay this amount of money to Chadwick for us. So so that's why we're seeing such a nice trade-in. One, it's in very good condition, but we're getting rid of it before we run into problems. And then the moment we run into problems, then we're talking tens of thousands of dollars to fix.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where it just.
It's no value, yeah.
Right, we consider they start to eat themselves alive with the fall. And so we'd like to get rid of it before then, start the process and then
So this is an expense we're gonna see every 7 or so years, right? Just so we know.
approximately every 7 to 10. That's correct.
Gotta keep those roads swept. But yeah, I know that walkers and bikers and every time we go sweep roads and you see the difference between what they look like before and after in the spring, it's amazing. So now how does this, Mose, is this a gas or diesel? Because the 4-wheel is literally like a truck, basically. It's a cab and chassis.
And it has some, we aren't getting a lesser vehicle because if you look at the 2 boxes on the side of that, there's a small white box on the 4-wheel.
Yeah.
What they did is they put, so there's valves and solenoids all over these things, right? So on the older sweeper, on the 3-wheel, the mechanic has to get underneath there and find it and then fix it. They put all the valves and everything in those 2 boxes. So when something goes wrong, they go in there, they run tests in there, and then
No, that's great.
it's a big advantage. We actually don't buy them. We let the operators and the guys in the shop tell us what we're buying. So this is what they said.
I just had a question about the process of getting the bids. So did we do an RFP initially?
No,
Because, and why not?
well, there aren't that many people that sell sweepers themselves.
That are decent.
Just because I'm, our town purchasing policy says anything over
These-
50, we're
these
supposed to
are-
do an official RFP.
They're on the
Sourcewell.
Sourcewell bid.
Right.
That's a,
What is Sourcewell?
Sourcewell is a bidding contingency. It used to be called the National Joint Purchasing Alliance.
Okay.
So that's basically, that allows us to say, oh, yes, we didn't go out for the RFP, they went out for the RFP.
Okay.
And then it trips on.
So you got this through the government?
Through this, right, through a
the state-
Sourcewell
through a
contract.
Sourcewell
Yeah, it's not a-
contract,
yeah.
which is the best price we can find.
So is it, just so I understand,
Right.
Sourcewell is a state of Connecticut?
No, that's a national. bidding
So it's a
process.
national bid, and so that's a national government bid process, and they get the bids for different items, and then you go into the system and see what they have available?
Well, in this case, I call the vendors and say, what do you have? Is this on any state bid or is this a Sourcewell bid? They said, yes, this is on Sourcewell.
Okay,
And they say, and then they'll show me a price and then they'll say this is the Sourcewell price.
So any municipality would be like
Come in and get this
the
price.
same price.
That's.
So they're like a
Bob-
clearinghouse for the pricing of it.
But we have a Sourcewell number.
Mhm.
Because we signed up for it. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll try to get you more information on exactly what Sourcewell is.
yeah, that would be great, just because I just think it's an important thing for us to kind of look at, like, when we're making these massive purchases, how are we getting the best price? Is it through the RFP or is it through these? That would be great. I appreciate it.
I mean, that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Is that functionally a bidding process? Is
Right.
what you're. and
Right,
that's a
because if
very valid
it
point.
is,
Yeah.
it is, then
Yeah.
that's the same thing
That's
that we're
great.
requiring, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're sort of following the best, trying to get the best prices that we can and following our purchasing policies, so.
Do we
And
use
I can-
Sourcewell for other things?
Pardon me?
Yes,
Yeah, so.
yeah, we've
what-
used them, we use them. A lot.
Loaders,
Yeah.
backhoes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then for other purchases too, even I believe that, it was a Sourcewell contract for, like, say for the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
That might have been a state bid, it might have been a Sourcewell, but I can't remember, but I know we've used them for other, not just equipment purchases, but for other types of things as well.
So Tiger, in the budget process, when you build your requests, and you always are telling us about the fleet and stuff like that, that is a typical, that Sourcewell, you may be tapping that for when you're coming up with your estimates for.
That's correct.
And they normally say, you're not gonna get a better price than Sourcewell price. Right, they normally
Of
say.
course they'll say that.
And they are salesmen, there's no doubt, that's pretty good.
But it's a platform that forces vendors to give their best price immediately to municipalities so that there's no back and forth. This is it. Either it's a take it or leave it kind of thing anyway. So
Okay.
that's when they put the pricing up there, they want to be the most competitive and they
Okay.
want to move product. And that's the whole point of doing it.
All right, any more questions? Great, okay, and thanks, Moses. I would love to get some more information on.
Okay.
That would be great. I
We'll
appreciate
send
it.
you what we have.
Okay, thank you. So could I get a motion to approve a request from the Public Works Department to enter into a contract with Chadwick Barros in the amount of $262,462, less a trade-in of $50,000 for a total cost of $212,462. The purchase is contingent on Board of Finance approval of $12,462 toward the purchase. So Steve,
Second.
Amy, second, all in favor, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
And then you should have on your tablets the contracts under $10,000. Does anybody have any questions?
No, the one clarification I got, the BASF is
Uh-huh.
before and after school. I was guessing that's what it was, but just, in terms of why we're doing art classes and pottery. So, yes.
Okay, any other?
No.
Okay, any selectmen comments?
Here's a question I have. I know we have a lot of board positions to
Yep.
fill, and I know people are working on it. So my request is that if we're, when you get to the point where there's a group, the earlier you can send out the qualifications, the best, because I would like the opportunity to chat with everyone.
Okay, great.
Okay, that would be my request.
Yeah, because we've got the Affordable Housing Committee, we've got to get
Yep.
seated and.
Yeah.
And that's something on the
Yeah.
committee stuff.
And Board of Finance.
Board of Finance.
Yeah, so that would be, just because all of a sudden, 2 weeks
You don't
seems a
wanna-
lot, and then it's not,
Yeah,
you know, and this
okay.
will be only 10 days, right,
Yeah.
between next meeting, so
Okay.
that'd be great.
Happy to. Any other comments?
Then we recommend 15.
All right, might actually make it to the HSF meeting. Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn? Steve, Amy second, all in favor? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
What if we didn't get unanimous to adjourn?